With the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible, we called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Seabird.
How is everybody doing? Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision on this Monday, birthday Martin Luther King celebration day. So throw that shout out and make sure that everybody has a good day and focuses on the freedoms that we have and those freedoms that have been pushed to the limits of making sure that everybody gets their freedom. So really great day for that. I want to say, the show is always put together by sitchradio.com. Brian Colburn sits at the helm and makes sure everything happens, United States Marine Corps himself. And I'm lucky to have him pushing me into the direction that I've been pushed. Today, my guest is Dr. Alisa Brady. She is with Wings, a treatment facility, a recovery facility. And it's great to have her on deck today. And we're going to have a great discussion and talk about some really good opportunities for veterans, for our military, for anybody who might be dealing with some serious issues for needing that recovery. Dr. Alisa, how you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on my show. Thanks for hitting me up a while back. One of your associates hit me up and said, "Hey, we have this facility. We're doing all these different things, and it's really great to find out about recovery centers. There's a lot of them in Southern California, but you're really close to Camp Pendleton. And first, let's start off with you. Talk about you a little bit, why you got into the business of what you're doing, and what you're doing with it."
Sure. Well, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I had worked in substance abuse and mental health and really focused on the treatment of trauma for quite some time. And got together with my co-founder, Katie. She and I together, both being clinicians, had seen how it was really hard for people to get treatment for complex PTSD or PTSD with dissociation, and that there just wasn't a lot of resources available. And that a lot of times what we found we'd worked in outpatient settings for a long period of time, but if you start to treat some of that really serious trauma, it can become dangerous in an outpatient setting because it's normal that it's going to activate and things are going to come to the surface. And so if you're struggling with substance abuse or you're feeling suicidal or you're struggling in your relationships, those things are sometimes going to get worse before they get better. And so we knew we needed to create a place where that was a safe place where people could truly heal from trauma. And I'm not just talking like, let's talk about the trauma and move through it, like really dig into it and get through to the other side and get to a place of like complete healing. And that was our goal. And so we had started Wings Recovery almost 6 years ago. And, I had a lot of experience of working with folks in the military. We're right here, so close to Camp Pendleton. We're in the Carlsbad area of San Diego. And so naturally, our program has, opened up our doors to those folks, to active military and to veterans. And so that's been a big part of what we do is a commitment to those folks.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, there's obviously so much issues with it, and talk about some of the things that you focus on the plan. There's so many things, so many options. That people that are veterans can take advantage of, and some really thrive on some treatments, and some do better with other treatments. And really, for me, it's always a place. I really like to have a handful of places, but what treatments do you focus on a lot, and how long is the facility? What is your facility like? Talk about that. Exciting.
Happy to. The way we designed it is, well, first and foremost, is that it is gender specific. So we have a women's treatment facility that is completely separate from our men's treatment facility. And that's really important to us. I think we designed it that way because a lot of times men need to heal with other men, and women find it a safer place to heal amongst other women, especially for our veterans, our female veterans. So sometimes the trauma they've experienced has been at the hands of men. So it doesn't feel safe to be in a co-ed facility, to be working through trauma. And so we have 2 separate locations, one for women and one for men. And we really try to be as comprehensive as possible in terms of the types of treatment that we offer people for trauma, because not everybody responds to the same thing. I'll say the one overarching thing is that we are really heavily based on EMDR. So when clients come to us, we have what's called residential PHP and IOP levels of care. Residential is like 24/7, right? You are there, you live there, you are in a safe environment with other peers, and it's a smaller group, and everything is included in that. So you're getting your medication management, individual therapy, group therapy, nutrition assessments, like the whole thing. Activity, exercise, mindfulness, and meditation. So we're really doing just about everything. But I would say that EMDR is a big piece of what we do. So like when clients come, they're assigned 2 therapists. They have a primary therapist and then they have a trauma therapist. And that trauma therapist is going to typically start off with doing an EMDR approach. Like, let's work through the trauma via EMDR. If the EMDR is not working, or the client has tried it before and it did not work for them, or they don't want to do EMDR, then we have brain spotting, IFS, we do CBT, DBT, all sorts of things. And in fact, we even are really committed to making sure we're doing like the latest and greatest in terms of what's been shown in the research to help in terms of trauma. We found recently that a lot of our clients have responded really well to the ketamine treatments. So we'll do what's called the S-ketamine, which is the nasal. And if clients do ketamine and then do a trauma therapy session right after that, we found that we can get some really great progress and some, like I said, complete healing.
And when you're dealing with these things in that capacity, that's why it's important to be in a facility, because like you said, you never know when you're opening up that Pandora's box, and at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, someone needs to talk and there's nobody there. That's why it's important to do the inpatient piece for some. Now, what kind of outpatient do you have the outpatient piece too? Do you got IOP in progress?
Yeah, too? Exactly. The residential, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly right. It's like things are going to come up during that process, and someone isn't sleeping, they're having insomnia, or they're having nightmares or whatever. There's someone there who's going to help you through that process. And so you have that 24/7 support that you don't get in the hospital, because the hospital is a place that is geared to keep people safe. There's not really therapeutic treatment typically going on in the hospital setting. And it's not typically a pleasant experience for most people. This is geared to be pleasant as possible while you're working through stuff, supportive. And then once someone completes that residential, or what we would call like an inpatient level of care, then they would step down to what we call partial hospitalization, which is outpatient, but it's like 5 days a week. It's a full-time job. Your treatment is a full-time job. It's 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, you're engaged in treatment, but you're not living somewhere, where there's 24/7 care. You're either living independently, or they would be living at like a sober living, or we have supportive housing where they would live. So there's still some support typically in the home, but it's not like 24/7 care, but there's still heavy duty outpatient. Once a person completes that process and then they start to really heal and get better, then they would step down into the 3rd level, the lower level of care, which is considered IOP, which is intensive outpatient. And at that level of care, people are going to treatment for like 3 hours a day, which is still a good chunk of time, but they'll maybe do 3 hours a day, either 5 days a week or 4 days a week or 3 days a week. So at that point in time, maybe they're looking for a job, or they're maybe working part-time, or volunteering somewhere. Like, they're doing other stuff during the day aside from just treatment. Whereas, that PHP is like a full-time job. Then you step down and it's about 3 hours a day. So we have this whole kind of like continuum of care.
Yeah, no, that's outstanding. We're coming back. I want to talk about the length of the program, how big of the facility, these kind of things. We'll come back to that. We're gonna do my PSA from the VA advertisement will come right back
Yeah.
from sitchradio.com. Put that together. Thanks, Brian.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Do you want easy access to VA Online, as well as other government websites? Then login.gov is the way to go. Login.gov is a U.S. government service that provides seamless access to government websites. By creating a login.gov account, you can use the same email and password to sign into va.gov, My Healthy Vet, VA DoD e-benefits, and the VA Health and Benefits mobile app, among other VA services. Login.gov also allows you to securely sign in to USA Jobs and TSA PreCheck, and to apply for SBA small business loans and disaster assistance. One login, many resources. To create a login.gov account, simply go to va.gov and click Sign In.
All right. Hey, we're back with sitchradio.com, Combat Vet Vision. I got Dr. Alisa Brady on deck with me from Wings Recovery. And we're discussing all kinds of options. And one of the big questions I want to have real quick is, do you meet these individuals where they're at? Like, do they necessarily, maybe they don't need the whole inpatient treatment, and then they can start with whatever they're at, maybe the IOP or, vice versa. And, because so many guys and gals are dealing with things on different levels, it's important for them to feel comfortable showing up to a place and being like, hey, they're forcing me to go this direction, but that's not the direction they really want to go. And granted, it may be the direction they need, but they may not be ready for it. So how do you guys deal with all that? And then let's talk about your facility, the time frame for these situations, and all that is good stuff.
Yeah. No, you bring up such a good point, because it may be that somebody needs a higher level of care. Maybe they need to be in that residential, but it's a huge step. And so we really try to honor the autonomy of each person and meet them where they're at. And a lot of people will enter in at the IOP level of care. They can enter it at any point in that level of care. It doesn't have to be at the most intensive. And I think we're used to working with people with all different kinds of presentations. Trauma it's a pretty interesting thing. It can manifest in so many different ways. And a lot of times people not only have trauma from their adult life, but they may have trauma from their childhood as well. We work with, our commitment when we started the program was that we wanted to be able to work with those people that other places couldn't or wouldn't work with. So, we have seen, I think, just about anything, in terms of how trauma can manifest. And it doesn't scare us. We are there to be there with that client and to walk with them through that process. For example, we had a client who came to us and this was not a veteran, but this person had experienced some pretty severe physical abuse in childhood. And she had this reaction where she would get triggered out of nowhere and get scared. Obviously, the parents are no longer in the picture. She's an adult. She would climb trees and she would get scared because that's what she did as a kid to cope. She would climb trees, but the problem was she would climb trees and she had fallen and she had gotten a head injury. So while she was with us, there was multiple times where we were like, we have 24/7 care. We got eyes on everybody at all times. All of a sudden we would look and be like, what happened? And she was up in a tree. And so we were like, this was a different presentation. We hadn't seen this before. We hadn't seen people climbing trees before. So we created this teepee inside the house. So we came up with this creative solution. We created a teepee she would go inside there, and that was like a safe place. So anytime she felt like she needed to go run up a tree, she had a place to go to that was separate, that was away from other people. That was like an alternative strategy for managing what was coming up for her. And eventually she didn't even need the teepee anymore, but we had created and so we're working with each person to figure out how do we best help this individual, knowing that each person is going to maybe have different struggles, different life history, different ways that trauma manifests. Or we've had quite a few people who've had seizures it's not a biological seizure, it's a seizure in response to trauma. And so it's almost like the flashback manifests as a seizure. So we've gotten really good at working with those folks. And I'll tell you, it's so amazing to see someone coming in having seizures and having this huge physiological response to trauma. And then by the time they're finished with the program, they're like seizure free and they're functioning. It's like, this is why we do what we do, is be able to see that progress and that healing for people. So, and in terms of like length of stay or how long it takes, it's really depends, on the individuals. I will say the VA is one of the good things about working with veterans, is that the VA is typically been pretty good in authorizing the amount of care that the veterans need. You got to jump through a lot of hoops to get that care on board. And boy, is it a process, and it's always changing and very detailed and a lot of red tape. But once we're able to get that kind of first authorization going, we've been able to get the VA to authorize the length of care that each person really needs. And that's nice, because that's not always the case with other, like, people who are coming in with Anthem or with, other insurance payers. It can be a struggle. Oh,
Definitely. And Doctor, you hit on it a little bit when you talked about the separation of men and women and why it's important for them to heal together, because so often I obviously see it in my groups as well. If there's a woman involved, then the dynamic changes for sure. And if there's so let's talk about a little bit about the camaraderie, why that's so important, why that's a huge deal, and how that works in your system.
Yeah. Well, I think, part of it is working through feelings of shame and being able to feel like you can talk openly. There's things that I've found that men can talk about with other men that they maybe didn't feel safe or comfortable talking about when there's women in the room. We have a lot of men who have, sexual compulsions or sex addiction, or other relationship issues. Maybe they're going through a divorce or whatever, and it just doesn't feel as safe or feel like they can really share, when there's women involved. So I feel like they can really open up. And the same goes for the women too. Like I said, women who have experienced trauma at the hands of men, oftentimes they're holding back. They're not really sharing the details, or really necessarily getting their body to feel safe. Because part of it is like, you may intellectually know that you are safe, but for your body to realize that you're feeling safe, for your body to get into like that place where your body is saying, yes, I agree with my mind, I'm safe right now, that is huge. And so anything that's going to compromise that feeling of safety, we're trying to contain that. We're really trying to make it feel safe to the mind and body when people come in for the treatment.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you've hit on a lot of different things that are even more broad than just the combat PTSD that I focus on. There's a lot of my combat PTSD guys and gals that might be dealing with all these other issues, like you said, the sex addictions, the trauma, the divorces, the all these different things that affect our mind wellness. And I think that's awesome that you're bringing some of that stuff up, because and the safeness, the body to feel safe, because it is a physiological and other things that are dealing with, and it starts to affect your organs, a whole other process. So it's been in the studies. It's huge. I know it's been really cool, but it is amazing that you're doing this. How big is your facility right now? And you're obviously in Southern California and up in middle California as well. If you talk about the two facilities, I think you got two, right?
Yeah, we have two. All of our facilities are in San Diego area right now. So but we have people that are coming to us from all across the country, flying out from the East Coast, because it is hard to find a treatment center that is genuinely focused on trauma and really doing the trauma work. So like I said, we've had people come from all across the country, but right now our facilities, both of them are in San Diego. The women's and the men's are both located in the San Diego area.
And you're not just handling veterans, you're handling civilians as well, which is super important, because I so often have, where can I get some help and support? Do you offer groups outside of like necessarily peer-to-peer mentor groups or something like that, where a civilian might be able to enter that, or a hybrid group or something like that? I just want to know if you have some of that.
That's such a good question. I mean, the lowest level of care we offer is that IOP, that 3 hours a day. And there's groups involved in that, but we don't have just like a weekly 1 hour a week group. Yeah.
Okay. I so often get that from civilians. Where can I get that? So if
I
doctors
know
have
it's
some
needed.
direction you ever want to go, let me know. We'll work it out.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But no, it's really important because I mean, I get civilians listening to this, a lot of other things, so it's important for them to know what exists out there. And
Yeah.
where are your facilities located again? Let's talk
Yeah.
about it. You got it in San Diego, but kind of narrow it down a little.
Yeah. We're in the
Give that.
Carlsbad area. So Carlsbad is like the North County, San Diego. We're, like I said, we're really close to Camp Pendleton. And it's a nice coastal area. I don't know if you've been to Carlsbad before, but it's a nice, like, I mean, from our facility, you can walk to the beach, and a lot of people do. That's part of the healing too, is like reconnecting with nature in some way, like taking off your shoes and getting your feet in the sand. Like those little things can be important. Did I freeze up? Oh no, did you lose me? Oh shoot, I can't hear you. Darn it.
All right, can you hear me now?
I hear you, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sometimes the internet just kind of jams out a little bit, but it came back.
Good.
No, it's super awesome. I hope I can come visit your facility sometime when
Love
I
that.
get a chance, because I really like to know what I'm sending my veterans to, how they're working, or civilians in that, for that matter as well,
Yeah.
when I get those questions. But it's great if somebody wants to get a hold of you. I always tell them they can go through me. I'll definitely get a hold of Dr. Alisa, and we can definitely get you some help and support. But if somebody wants to get a hold of and work with you, throw out any information.
Oh, sure.
And any last thoughts you might have too, throw those out. I definitely, it's been
Sure.
awesome. It's awesome to hear what you got going on.
Yeah, you can reach out to us. Our website is www.wingsrecovery.org. So it's wings, plural, WINGS, recovery.org. That's our website. I guess one of the things I just would like to say is, for those who may be struggling, combat vets or anyone who's struggled with trauma, is that I know, it can feel really hopeless. Maybe you've tried a lot of things or things haven't really fully worked. And, just know that I and our team, we hold out hope. We know that healing is possible, and to just don't give up. Just keep trying, because eventually you will find the right place and the right people who can help you. And I just encourage people who are struggling to don't give up hope. Hang in there. And that, like I said, it is possible to heal from trauma. I know, because I see it, and that is what we are committed to helping people do.
Awesome, Doctor. Hey, thanks a lot. I mean, and in the show notes, all your information is there. And like I said, if anybody needs to get a hold of her and you can't remember, hey, I often get like someone hitting me up. Hey, you had this doctor on that talked about, and I'll be like, yeah, I'll get you in touch with her. And hey, if you don't mind, we'll have you back on the show at some other time too. It'd be great to have you again. And it's amazing what you're doing. I appreciate having these resources that kind of flow. I can't do it by myself, but I definitely love reaching out and being like, hey, let's try to find a facility. And in your facility, how long does someone stay? Just out of curiosity, normally?
I mean, it really varies. It could be as little as 30 days. It could be as long as 6 months, sometimes even more, just depending on that person and how they're progressing. So it's a lot of variability.
And one last question. If somebody wants to get that help, do they have to go through their VA doctor first, or do they touch bases with you and you also help facilitate that connection?
We can help facilitate that referral process.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doctor. Appreciate you. And I love having you on, because it's just such an important piece. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. I often talk about the PTSD Foundation, Warrior Built Foundation. These are the two foundations that I work with the most and doing a lot of things. And through those foundations, I'm lucky enough to get in contact with facilities and treatment centers and things that really kind of can help our veterans as well as our civilians and other things. And however that might look, I know my focus is always on the combat vet, but it's also focused on better involvement within society and getting tuned into ourselves, and then being able to grow. That post-traumatic growth is super important. We talked about that, and she talked about that a lot. Just seeing that trauma kind of lifted or placed in a better place for you. But hey, this is Combat Vet Vision. Thanks to Brian Colburn for always, pushing the buttons and making things happen and throwing me under the bus every chance he gets so that I can do this podcast, which is super awesome. I wasn't going to do it, but thanks to him. Strength and honor. Until next time, out.
And we need nothing more. The only way together forever, that's for sure.